There was a Syrian refugee in a school in the north of England, and he's held down on video by a white English pupil, and he pours a bottle of water over him. Now, the headlines were that Syrian refugee was racially attacked and waterboarded. Yeah? So that was the headline, and that went CNN, it went ABC Australia, it went BBC. It was the biggest news story of the world, yeah? And they blew it up. Now, the story the public were told was that it was a racist attack because he was a Syrian and because he was a refugee. And everyone was told that the white English boy was a racist bully. Now, very quickly as this blew up, I think £170,000 was donated to the Syrian refugee. Our politicians used it. Everyone used this story for their agenda. So the Home Secretary invited the Syrian refugee to Parliament. Professional Lennox Lewis, world champion boxers, made invites to him. Everyone was supporting the Syrian refugee because of the way the story was portrayed. I very quickly got contacted by mothers and parents at the school and pupils at the school saying that there were allegations that the Syrian refugee had beat up girls, he'd attacked girls, he'd threatened to rape girls, all of these allegations. So I made a video saying to the public, you're being lied to about this event, okay? This is not the entire story. You've got a 10-second clip. Stop donating your money, and this isn't the truth. From that, then we have a celebrity jihadist lawyer who represents all the jihadists. So if you've, yeah, his name's Mohammed Akunji. So he's the man trying to get Shamina Begum back into the UK. That's the girl that went to the ISIS bride. He was the lawyer for Mike Adebolajo, who beheaded Lee Rigby. He is the celebrity jihadist lawyer. He then contacts me, and it worked with everyone else. Everyone else that was threatened over this story shut up or retracted their statements, yeah? He contacted me and said, you have to pay £50,000, make an apology for your defamation, because I went online and said that the Syrian refugee had threatened to stab someone, and I said he attacks girls.
Yeah.
They said that wasn't true, so they then started legal proceedings to sue me.
Okay.
This is where it starts. So they start legal proceedings to sue me. I then launch into action, investigating, because I know what I've said's true, because I spoke to parents, pupils, I spoke to everyone at the school. So then I thought, how do I prove? I'm always thinking outside of the court, because there's no jury in this court case. I'm thinking of public opinion. I need to show the public that I have credibility and I haven't lied to you. In fact, I was the only journalist in Britain who told you the truth about this story. Now, when you see the film, if they can change the entire story, they changed and deceived the entire nation on this story. How many other stories are we seeing daily, which are total...
I mean, like the story about Biden being competent. Like that story, for example.
Like when they hide it, like the Hunter Biden story, when certain stories...
Right, Russian disinformation. 50 intelligence officers swearing to
it. They hide certain stories and then they pump other stories. Now, why did they pump this story? This story was about supporting migration, supporting refugee status, because the reality was the British government at this time, this Syrian refugee was one of 20,000 welcomed in by the Conservative government at the height of the ISIS conflict. So if the reality could be told, which was allegations of the boy being a bully, attacking girls, stabbing people, and I'll get onto all of this. So if that was the truth, then people might start challenging the government policy. Now, the government very quickly used this story, invited the Syrian refugee. He was on every news show. Once they'd done that, they couldn't go back on it. They had to crush the story, yeah? At which point, I then wear a hidden camera and I say, let's go and speak to the teachers. Let's find out what's gone on up in Huddersfield. The first teacher I go to, there was an Asian gentleman, come out and said straight away, Tommy, I took the money. I said, what do you mean you took the money? He said, I took the money. I said, they paid you. Who paid you? Kirklees Council. Now, the leader of Kirklees Council was Shabir Pandor, who's a Muslim. His brother's the lead. Do you remember the school story in Batley where a school teacher tried to talk about Mohammed, and that school teacher's still in hiding now. So the man that organised the rally outside that school is a Mufti Pandor. So Shabir Pandor is the leader of the council. His brother is the main radical imam who organised all the protests. Now, at the time, in the city of Huddersfield, it was the biggest grooming scandal. Grooming is rape jihad, gangs of Muslim men who are raping young girls in our country's history, yeah? This was a perfect news story to change the narrative, which is what they done.
Right.
So the teacher says he was paid. I say how much. He whispers on camera, £18,000. So then he goes on to tell me that the Syrian refugee come up to his classroom to beat up a girl. Remember, my allegation is that he beats up girls. And then we go on to get the school records.
Yeah.
We have, and just so you can see the deception to the British public, the Syrian refugee was sat on TV and making comments like, I don't like to break the school rules.
Yes.
Well, his school records show 117 disciplinaries. His school records show that the teacher...
He meant he didn't like to break them 150.
150 times. Mm-hmm. But the public were totally deceived on this. And they donated £180,000 to this child, yeah?
Yeah.
And at the same time as this, the English boy was portrayed as a racist bully,
right?
Which was a total...
They had to move, right?
Their house come under attack. There was threats to rape the sisters. Do you know what you don't see in the story? Do you know that boy lived with me for 3 years?
Oh,
that boy. I took him home.
Oh.
I took the family home. Mm-hmm. So they lived 4 hours away.
Mm-hmm. And didn't they put them in a ratty hotel right next to a brothel?
They were putting them in the
in an Islamic district.
They were putting them in the Islamic district that Mufti Pandor, the man who organised the protest outside the school, controls the main mosque next door.
How soon did he show up at the school after?
The next day.
The next day.
And the story, so people understand, the story wasn't organic. The story of the bottle of water happens here. 4 weeks later, it blows up into international news. Now, what happens in that 4 weeks? The celebrity jihadist lawyers working with the Home Office, yeah, they put in a criminal record check on the Syrian's family. So they're making sure the family are clean before they blow it up. The criminal record check comes back, say, on the 25th. On the 26th, it's world news. So it wasn't like this story just went online and blew up and everyone started reporting on it. They had 4 weeks to plan it, and they planned it. And they planned the entire story. And what you see, the Syrian refugee had a broken arm at the time, yeah? He had his arm in a plaster cast. Now, what the public were told was that he broke his arm in another racist attack. So when I went to the head teacher's house, after already having a teacher say he was paid £18,000 to prevent him telling the truth about the Syrian, I then go to the head teacher's house who just said, Tommy, I've never had my chance to talk about this, yeah? I'm not allowed to, okay? I said, so have you signed a non-disclosure agreement? Did they pay you? And he goes on to say they blackmailed him. They threatened him. So when this went onto world news, when I say who's they, he says, Theresa May, who was our Prime Minister at the time, she spoke about this in the United Nations meeting. She spoke about this story. That's how big this story was. And then they came into his school and he said he'd worked there for 25 years. He joined education to help I could have done a whole documentary on that head teacher. Yeah.
They closed the school?
They closed the school down.
Eventually, yeah.
So what happened to his arm?
So basically the head teacher says, do you know how he broke his arm? And I did, but I said, no, tell me how he broke his arm. He said he was attacking a pupil 4 years younger than him. So he was 15. He was attacking an 11-year-old boy after racially abusing the boy's mum. Yeah?
Yeah.
So he is attacking the boy and another pupil, because he had a little boy in the headlock, another pupil pushed him off. That's how he broke his arm. But I said, that's not what the whole world was told. We were told.
He fell against a curb, eh?
He fell against a curb.
Yeah.
And that's what the records show from the school. And the head teacher says on camera, I investigated it. I know how he broke his arm. Yeah. And then I asked the head teacher, well, how come the public were never told any of this? He said, we told the media. We were telling the media. All of us were. It was never reported.
Huh.
So then the head teacher goes on to state that they made him sign a non-disclosure agreement. They then escorted him off the school property and he never worked a day since. And part of his agreement, he's not even allowed to talk to other teachers. So they totally shut this case down. Now, whilst they shut this case down, I was a problem because I was a journalist with a very large following telling the public and the world, they're lying to you. Yeah. So how did they deal with me? They then started legal proceedings. Now, legal proceedings to sue me because they said the allegations I made were lies. Now, so I had to prove...
Who was they?
The lawyers, the law firm. Okay. But then, as a journalist, I can prove everything I reported is what I was told. I had the messages from a mum who sent me pictures of her daughter's face with bite marks, yeah? So I went to court first of all and said, well, I'm a journalist. I reported what I was told, yeah? The judge didn't allow that. The judge said, no, you have to prove it is true. So I said, well, I don't have protection as a journalist that I reported what I was told, yeah? So why do I have to even, if I was told it and I reported the allegation, but then
you had the school records, or did you not have them?
No, I didn't have them at this point.
I see.
I didn't have them at this point. So then he said, you have to prove it's true. I said, okay. So then they put me to trial. Now, I spent £100,000, yeah, on lawyers at the start of this. It was going up to £200,000 for my legal fees. Then it all became very apparent what this was for me very quickly because we sat down in court and they agreed their legal costs. We're up to £750,000.
Right.
So then I'm like, okay, this is what's happening.
Lawfare.
For me to fight this, and I couldn't afford to fight it, yeah. So I couldn't afford the legal teams, but we got into the proving truth. So I had all the recordings, yeah? So I went and got 7 teachers. One teacher, a female, says on camera, women couldn't speak to this Syrian refugee.
Right.
He hated women, yeah? I say, what was he like? He was aggressive. And do you know, I asked the teachers the same questions. What was Jamal like? And what was Bailey, the English racist bully? And whenever I mentioned Bailey's name, they said, oh, what a beautiful boy.
Yeah, right.
Really nice kid. Now, so people understand the story of why I couldn't back down anyway, yeah? Is when this story blew up on international news, I went to meet the family, the English boy, and I went to a hotel and I met the mum. They were hiding in the hotel because the police, you're right, were putting them in a hostile Islamic area in some hotel. So when I met the mum, she was crying her eyes out. She said, I've spent all my Christmas money, Tommy. I've got no Christmas money for the kids. I've been here for a week hiding. We don't know what to do. She had 2 9-year-old little girls with her twins, 2 mixed race little girls who were Bailey's little sisters.
Right. Oh, yes, right. That's important.
Yeah, it's because they're calling them a racist family. So I said to the family, I said, okay, come and stay with me, yeah, till we sort this out. So I come back up the next day and we go to the house. Now, at the time when this blew up onto national news, their address was put out. And when their address was put out, gangs had turned up, which I wear, again, to prove to the public that it's not my allegation of this, I go and knock on the neighbours' doors and say, what was it like? And they say, cars of Muslim men were turning up here, saying they're going to rape the sisters, they're raping the mum. And then the family at the time barricaded themselves. So the 2 little sisters and the mum barricaded themselves inside their door. Now, when I went to move their stuff the next day, the family wouldn't come back to the house. They were too scared. I said, right, we'll go with men to your property and get you all your belongings, yeah? Because the Christmas presents were under the tree. So that's what the mum was like, my Christmas presents were under the tree. All the kids' stuff said, when I got there, we couldn't get in the bedroom door. The bedroom door was only this much open, yeah? Where the family, this is to understand what the family had to go through. They'd had to barricade themselves in as gangs of Muslims were outside, attempting to get in the house because the boy poured a bottle of water over him. And not just the boy poured a bottle of water over him, but every single, Piers Morgan, Jeremy Vine, the biggest commentators in our country, demanded severe retribution. That's their words, against this child. He was a child. So even if he
had... Well, and you said he poured...
Wasn't Bailey responding to something that Jamal had done when he poured the water?
So what I said originally was that Jamal had threatened to stab Bailey. That was my allegation because that's what Bailey had told me. When we go to the teachers' houses, I had her under posh teacher because she spoke very well. She said, you do know, and this is all on the documentary, you do know he threatened to rape Bailey's little 9-year-old sisters, don't you? Yeah. So when you see the boy pouring a bottle of water over him in the playground, he doesn't physically beat him up.
No.
Yeah? Pours a bottle of water over him. You don't get any backstory. And although all the teachers knew the backstory, yeah, one of the teachers, I knocked on her door and I'm so gutted because there was a teacher who knew Bailey, and when I knocked on her door, she just got on her knees crying.
Oh dear.
She just fell to her knees crying. And I know why she fell to her knees crying. That's guilt. Yeah. And every one of those teachers, the head teacher had a breakdown. The head teacher's life was a breakdown. And the sad story was I spoke to other pupils, because I spoke to so many people. Another pupil who had serious mental health issues, always self-harming. When I met him, he said, you see, if it wasn't for that head teacher, I'd be dead now. I wouldn't have survived my school time without that head teacher. Yeah. That head teacher saved my life on many occasions, the fact that I could go and talk to him. Yeah. So this head teacher was a brilliant man from everyone I spoke to. They threw him under the bus. Mm-hmm. They closed the school down. So to get rid of this problem...
They closed the school.
They closed the school.
That's amazing.
The school was gone. Amazing.
So I still want to know a little bit more about, the contempt issue.
So the contempt issue is, I went to court and 5 pupils who I don't know came to court and testified. Now, one of those pupils got A grade is the best you can get in school. So one of those pupils got 11 A's, yeah? A young girl called Charlie, okay? Her life's been destroyed through this as well. This is what I'm so angry about. Yeah? This isn't about saying I lied. You've said these children lied, yeah? That's what the judge has done.
Yeah, right.
So what he done, this pupil come to court, she gave testimony that the Syrian boy, within a week of being in school, beat her up with a hockey stick, yeah? And she still
hit her
in the back with a hockey stick. Another boy come to court and testified that he witnessed it, yeah? Another girl come to court and testified that he spat in her face and attacked her. Another boy comes to court and said he racially abused her mum. But this is
You said the journalists left.
They left court.
Before that happened.
So and
then the judge said that all those people were lying and said that people have all sorts of reasons to lie.
They just make things. So basically, as the Syrian refugee was given evidence, the media was sitting there and headlines were going everywhere about how scared he was with my video, yeah? and how he was intimidated and his family were in danger. We find out from the police records there were no threats, yeah? But this is how and then when it got to the first of our witnesses, which is 5 pupils, yeah? When it got to the witnesses, I mean, I watched the media get up and walk out of court. And I sat there looking at the judge. So they walked out of court. So as each one of these witnesses gave evidence, then not one single thing got portrayed to the British public. So the public were told nothing of what the allegations were. Again. Yeah. It's a total, and I sat there and I said to the judge, where are they gone? There's another news story. I said, so no one's reporting this. And then what the judge done, I then produced 7 covert recordings. Now the covert recordings proved that the council, because the head teacher was paid, this teacher was paid, and they all said they were paid, yeah? And they all say they were paid to prevent them telling the truth about this situation. So whilst they're telling everyone I lied, no one was free to tell the truth because they've signed financial non-disclosure agreements. So in the documentary, we put in an application to the local council, controlled by Mufti Pandor, and we ask, how much have you spent on non-disclosure agreements?
Right.
They spent £274,000 buying the silence of their employees. So from there...
What do you make of who's the judge? And what can you say about what you make of him?
Well, I actually... I'm not allowed to say anything. So even though I'm sitting here talking, I have been bound and gagged, and this film that I made. So when I produced all the covert recordings, I'm sitting there thinking, your entire case is gone. Yeah. This was a setup. It was fake. It was fraudulent. It's all a lie. Yeah. And then on the school records, remember, to find me in defamation, I said he threatened to stab someone. So then I produced the school records from his teacher that says he stabbed someone. Then I go to the boy's house who he stabbed and get the boy and his mum on camera, covertly, yeah, saying that he stabbed him and drew blood, yeah? He stabbed 5 pupils that day, according to these pupils, yeah?
5.
But he was portrayed to the entire country as a perfect little poor Syrian refugee who had been racially bullied. Now, I'm not having a go at the Syrian refugee here either, because he was 15 years old, he was a child, he'd come from a war zone, he had his problems, yeah? What the problem is here is the total deception to the entire world to push a narrative by a government. Yeah? The narrative, open border immigration, the narrative, white English racists, they said the school was racist. So even in the documentary, I go and find other Syrian refugees at the school and I knock on their doors and say, how have you found it living here? Mm-hmm, and the girl says, I found it brilliant. Everyone's been so welcoming to us. Yeah? So it was a total misrepresentation to the public. Now, when I show the judge all of these recordings, what he does is he writes down everything he saw. So every allegation that the women made, but their case was backed by the fact that the mother who went out publicly and said Jamal attacked her daughter, the mother that sent me pictures of her daughter's injuries, that mother retracted her statement, yeah, which she did. I knock on her door with a hidden camera and just say, look, I'm just trying to understand what's gone on. And she says, Tommy, they're threatened to rape us, yeah? I said, okay. She says, I've got to live here, Tommy, with my daughters, yeah? And this is the city with the biggest Muslim rape gangs, yeah? So she's terrified. So I said, okay, I'm not angry with you, yeah? Because they're ruining my life because of this, because they're saying that, they're telling the world I lied when I didn't. So she says, okay. And I said, but what I need to ask you is just, was Jamal involved in the attack against your daughter? She says, yes, of course he was. So, okay, so it was the truth. So I produced this to the judge to say, you may have a retraction statement, but here's why you've got a retraction statement, yeah? And here's the school records. In the school records, in minutes from a meeting, yeah, which they tried to block us getting the school records as well. In the school records from the minutes from the meeting, Jamal's father, his name's Jihad, yeah?
I know, I can't believe that.
Jamal's father, Jihad. In all the council records, they say that his family were trying to manipulate the situation for their own benefit. Jamal had his own caseworker who, in the emails, says Jamal is not the innocent party that's being portrayed here, yeah? That's his own caseworker. There was not one single person that went to court and gave any evidence for Jamal, yeah? It was literally 7 teachers, 5 pupils. The A-grade pupil, I read out in her school record, what it says is that she is the only pupil in the school to have 0 negatives. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah. She's a perfect grade A student. At the time of this court case, she's at university studying law. Why would she come to court and lie? Yeah. But the judge listed everything that's in the documentary, yeah, and then ruled against me, bankrupt me for £1.6 million, yeah, which is what this was about. So people understand, Kate, I don't know if you know Katie Hopkins in the UK. I rang Katie before this case because I knew they took her house. They took her family home. They put her through the courts and they seized her home. And I said, Katie, she said, Tommy, do an agreement. I'm telling you, you can't win. You cannot win this, yeah? I said, I can't do an agreement. I can't do it to the kid who was living with me, the English kid. He tried to kill himself as well, tried to commit suicide. I said, I can't say that this is all, I can't do it. I said, so I can't come to an agreement with them. I can't principally do it when I have reported the truth and I'm not backing down on that. So she said, well, they can do what they want because when they made me bankrupt, when they took my house, my new husband, who had savings from his previous marriage, they took that. She said, they're going to clean you out. So I had that advice very early on, but I went through and she was 100% right. They could do what they want. And they bankrupt me to the tune of £1.6 million. When they bankrupt me, they then give me an injunction. And when the judge gave me an injunction in court, I said, when he mentioned it, I said, the film's already made, yeah? Because I'd already made the film. They knew I had a film because I'd put out promos before the court case. The public are going to see the truth of this case, yeah? The film is not opinion-based. It's fact-based. It's school records.
When are you going to release it?
So I'm not allowed. So basically, since I've been here, the film was played in America 2 years ago in a cinema in Florida. General Flynn was there. He gave his account of what he watched. He said, it's unbelievable what I've just watched. Because what people need to understand is, you see what they've done to me is exactly the same lawfare that's going on across the whole Western world to anyone who raises their voice. What I managed to do is document every single part of it and show what I call the Unholy Alliance, the alliance together of the judiciary, of far-left organisations, Muslim organisations, all working together to control the narrative. And I was challenging the narrative, and that's why I had to be punished. But the judge gives an injunction where he listed everything in the film and basically said, if the public ever see this, you get 2 years in jail. So and if I'm honest, that's the contempt. And when I come out of court, I failed. I totally failed in myself as a journalist, because since the start of my activism, which I'll get to, it was in 2009, I've said, if you worry about consequence, you will never, ever bring about change. You won't bring about change. I wouldn't walk out my front door I wouldn't come to Canada if I was worrying about consequence, getting torn down by a communist government. But if you worry about consequence, you won't bring about change.
An incompetent communist government.
Well,
better be precise.
Yeah.
You should probably throw a bit of malevolence, wounded narcissism, malevolence in it too, just for the icing.
But but when I come out of court that day with the injunction, I was scared, in all honesty. I've been in prison multiple times to do with my work. I've done a year of solitary confinement, which totally damaged me. I went into prison one person and come out another. Yeah. And so at that time, and it also damaged my family. So at that time, I didn't play the film.
Right. So this is interesting, I think.
I should have played the film.
These are adult problems that haven't been dealt with because people aren't allowed to speak, and now children are at the brunt of it.
Do you know, they ruined that whole... So that school was closed down. The collateral damage in the government's lie, because that's what it is, a total lie.
Yeah.
The collateral damage, that young English kid is still suicidal.
Right.
I talk to him every day, yeah? As I said, he lived with me for 3 years.
Right.
Think he'd do a podcast?
Yeah, he would.
Do you want to ask him?
Yeah, he would do it, man. And do you know, you've got to hear what it done to his life. You've got to see what it done to him.
Hey, let's talk to him.
Talk to him.
Yep. Talk to him. Okay.
He's a lovely young man. Do you know, he had a difficult upbringing. And from the background he's from and the upbringing he had of poverty and in a real rough environment, he is a very nice kid. Do you know? And I look, my son's 15. It happened to him when he was 15.
Right.
The whole world turned on him.
Right.
The whole world turned on him, man. And even now, he's still bearing the brunt of it now, because he lived with me until this case. When this case finished, I left the UK. Now, when I left the UK, he left living with us, and he's gone back up to his hometown where he's still facing problems.
Oh yeah. From
this lie. But the thing is, I should have played the film. I should have just played the film, and I didn't play the film because I, for the first time, worried about consequence. I should have played the film, man. It's ate me up for years. And the film was never played, but it was played in America 2 years ago, yeah? 2 years ago it's played in America. Now they've come for me. Why have they come for me now? I held a rally on the 1st of June.